So now I'm going to put on my next jig for you. And this is the one I think Matt wants to see.
There's the show, Buster. Matt, you
clean
awake?
this track out.
Yeah, I'm awake. I got dogs that keep me awake too. So.
And the trick is getting it set in the track. So now this slides on here like this. This is my circle cutting jig. This moves in and out. It has a lock, so it only goes so far. This taper here is for relief to get the sawdust out of the way, because now you don't have a way to suck it into your machine if you have air assist. And this thing, and get all my stuff out of my way. I'm actually going to cut a few circles for you, just because I got stuff out. So this has a locking nut underneath, and this track slides in and out. Okay. So you want to make this whatever circle size you want. I got to grab a drill. We're going to need a drill. This is a 1/4 inch peg. I also have one, if I don't want to drill a 1/4 inch hole in something, I have one that's got a point on it that you can replace it. It's just a screw threaded into that bar. And I don't know if you can see this. Can you see that? You can't tell.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the one with the point on it. So I just took it to the grinder and ground a point on it, and it threads in that same position. So if you don't want a hole in something because you don't know which side you want to be your finish side or your coring side or whatever, you can do that, and you don't have such a big hole to try to replace. So now, where did I just put that piece? This is a pretty nice piece. So I'm going to set this up here. And hopefully you guys can see that. And I have a big circle cutting template. And I'm just going to take, just because you guys can't see the lines and I can, I'm going to put this will be my center mark on the backside. And I just pound that in there a little ways. And this is enough bulb length that I can cut out this hole that I'm going to drill in here. And it looks like I can get pretty much an 8-inch circle out of this. So I'm going to draw an 8-inch circle in here just so I remember what I drew or what I wanted it to be. And then wouldn't you know, my nail had to pop out. Only on a demo.
Of course.
Never fails.
Never fails. So we'll pound it in a little farther because we're going to drill a hole anyways. So I just draw a circle on here. I'll slide this out so I can go all the way around. Pull my nail out. Now I have my center point. Like so. Now I have a perfect circle. Now you could either cut this by hand or you can use this fancy jig I have. I'm going to use the jig because my circle will come out almost perfectly round. And these you can buy anywhere. They have them at all the box store, the woodworking stores, wherever. I don't even know where I bought this one. I think it came out of Lee Valley, actually. And it just gets magneted up to my saw. Now I'm going to take a drill bit that's just a hair bigger than 1/4 inch. And drill a small pilot hole. And I'm going to measure that just to make sure that it's 8 inches. What I said it was going to be, and it is. So now I'm going to cheat a little bit. Get a different ruler. I'm an old-fashioned stick ruler guy. I like them better than a ruler. I have a line scribed on this piece here, which I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's the center line of that bolt. So now I'm going to cheat that bolt in so that it's exactly 4 inches, which is half of the 8-inch circle. Tight to my blade. I'm going to tighten that down so that can't slide. Then you back this up like this, because you never start out on the right on the circle. I'm going to try to get this in that hole, which sometimes is a real trick.
Hmm. Okay, so we got a board here.
Come on. There we go. It's almost on there. I thought. I'm going to wobble the hole out just a little bit to make it a little easier to go on there. There, now we got it on there. So now you noticed I got this jig pulled backwards because the log is bigger than because I cut this at 12 inches, so it's bigger than what my circle is going to be at 8 inches. So now to start this, I'm going to push this into the blade, and you can watch from there. Come on.
Only on a demo.
The trick is to get it turning.
I don't think you're deep enough into the cut.
And I'm going to slide this down a little. That'll help too. Come on.
Keep pushing away from you. Keep
Yep,
pushing
hang
away
on.
from you because
Yeah,
it's not
bind
hitting
the
this.
The sawdust is binding it. That's the problem. There we go.
Beautiful. Yes, beautiful.
Once you get it figured out, it works pretty good. And you can see that I ended up right back where I started. And my circle is cut right on my black line, or pretty close to it anyways. So there, now you have a round blank that you can either turn with the bark on or the bark off, however you want.
That is cool.
Scott, there's a lead and follow part
Yep.
on that. All right, tell us what it is.
It's
All
as
right,
far as what
so
you
where that
as
blade,
far as what do you mean?
that blade
lead
is
and the-
lined up.
Yep,
That blade is lined up with the center of that dowel.
that is correct.
Okay, that's critical because if you're one way or the other, you're cutting
Right.
out of you're not cutting concentric. You're not following a
So-
true line.
So you can see I have this bar split as well. Let me get some of the sawdust out of there. There's a line in the center of this bar, which lines up right at the tip of that tooth, right there. This line and this tip of this tooth are about as close as you're ever going to get them. So you can slide this out as far as you want. I don't know if you can see that. I slid it out quite a ways. So this jig right now, the way I have it set up, I can cut a 24-inch radius.
Wow.
I can take this bar out. I can cut as small as 4 inches this way. This is my 4-inch mark. If I take this and flip this over,
Mm.
Now I can
Oh.
cut 2-inch circles. And then I can cut infinite number this way. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's whatever, wherever you put this locking bolt. Can you see that down there? This is the locking bolt that rides in this track. And it's just got a thumb screw on the bottom, a thumb nut.
It slides over and supports that sliding
It
rail.
locks,
Hmm.
it locks the riding rail. So that's all that's in there. And this bolt goes through here like this,
Oh, I see.
threads on like that. You push it up, get the flats of the nut in the track. And there you go.
Just a
Now it slides.
T-track turned upside down.
T-track turned
Correct.
upside down. That's all it is.
What did you call that bolt?
It's just a 1/4-inch bolt that you buy at the hardware store.
Oh, just a regular bolt.
It's a
Just a
cradle
regular
bolt,
bolt.
Brenda.
A what?
Yep. It's just a bolt.
Cradle bolt.
Cradle.
And I drilled out the T-slot a little bit so that round-headed 1/4-inch screw would go through there. I just took a whatever you got to make it a little bit bigger just so that it slides in there.
Mm. That's what,
And
half
then you can see
foot on the bottom?
it just, what's that?
That 1/2-inch
What, Brenda?
plywood?
This is actually 3/4-inch plywood because these tracks are roughly a 1/2 inch thick. So you only have really about a 1/4 inch of that holding that on there. One of the things you got to make sure of if you take this track out, that you get it cleaned out on the bottom, because it will ride proud then after that if you get sawdust down on this track. So how I made this track is I made it on a table saw, put my dado blade in,
Mm.
figured where I wanted the center of the track to be. And that's what's centered on my dado blade, and cut my appropriate dado for the T-slot that I have. And you have to measure all these because they're not all the same. And then you just run this in, run it past so that you have a place for the sawdust to come out of here. You just stop the saw, you run it past this line, and you stop the saw and wait for your table saw to stop, and then you just pick this up and it makes that slope for you because it's working off the back curve of the blade.
You got a board on the bottom of that to stop it, you say too, right?
Yep. So to stop it advancing, I just have a board here that's screwed to the bottom, and it hits my table.
All right.
Just hits on the edge of my table. You could hit on the edge of your fence, whatever, just so it's a stop. It's just got to stop so that it can't slide past that slot. So when you make this table, when you make this platform, the first thing you have to do is screw the track so it slides in your T-slot. Then you put this on where you want it to stop in this table, where you want the front edge of this blade to stop. Then you run it in and cut this kerf before you cut this piece here in, because you need to know where the tip of this blade is. So I can tell where the tip of this blade is to stop this dado, or center this dado, by the end of the cut. My cut only goes to the end of this blade.
You cut that slot before you did the dado blade?
Yep, I cut this slot before I did the dado.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah,
That's how you
Why I did
end
that?
up centering it in your dado blade, because you cut that blade, bandsaw blade first, and then you can measure it.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Then
okay.
then you'll have it right every time.
Yeah,
Gotta be
that's-
90 degrees too.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it has to
Perfect.
be 90
Yeah.
degrees.
Oh, yeah.
And by
that-
cutting
yeah.
this first, you automatically make this 90 degrees. This edge doesn't matter because you're not measuring from here. You know,
And your
Yeah.
you're
stop
measuring
makes
from
it, yeah.
from the blade
okay.
to here. The other thing you can do, I'll set you back up here. If you're really concerned about 90 degrees, you can take a machinist square set it up here. Let me get this out of here. And now you can set that up there to make sure you have 90 degrees. You can set it on this line, and essentially you'll get 90 degrees to the saw cut like this. Now you can get the center of that dado cut. There's the center. And you can line it up because you got your end of your slot, you know where the end of the tooth is. So now you know where the center of this line's got to be. That makes sense to everybody?
Mhm.
Yep.